If you've been feeling disoriented lately, like you're standing in a fog, not sure what's dissolving and what's coming next, you're probably feeling into Neptune and Saturn both being in Pisces again. The end of 2025 is kind of a regression in a lot of ways, a retraction. The energy is pulling back. Think of it as a slingshot. Neptune and Saturn moving back into Pisces bring together the two planets that give us form and the formless. And Neptune sitting at the 29th degree for 3.5 months before it moves into Aries for good with Saturn on the same day at 0 degrees of Aries. And now that Neptune is back in Pisces with Saturn, who's been here since September 1st, we're feeling this pressure, this pull to dissolve something, to let it go, to shatter the illusion. Meanwhile, Saturn's putting pressure on us, and what's this going to be instead? But we don't know yet. We're in this void between worlds, this space where the next version of you is quietly forming, but it's in the energy of becoming. This energy coming together feels like we're being asked to build a dream inside another dream that is dissolving simultaneously. And so it can feel confusing because there's this feeling of grieving something, like something isn't going the way it should. Something isn't the way it should, right? I recently did a talk with Dabney Lawless over at Lawless Astrology, and we talked about Neptune moving back into Pisces and Saturn in Pisces. So I'm going to just kind of focus on going deep into one of the things we talked about, but if you're interested in that, I'll have that link in the description. In that episode, I talked about the two different types or the two different words that the Greeks had for time, which was kairos and chronos. Kairos being opportunity, and this is really Neptune's time, God's timing, divine timing, non-linear, all-encompassing, all time. And Chronos, being Saturn, is sequential time, time here on Earth. Saturn is tangible, is a tangible world, or the boundary between the tangible and the intangible. And Neptune is the formless, it's the divine, it's unity consciousness. What I feel like a lot of us are grieving is that something in Chronos time, sequential tangible time, is not working the way that we wanted it to. And in a lot of ways, this is a test of faith because we're being asked to trust in Kairos time, the golden opportunity that arises in perfect divine timing. Maybe it's like a relationship that's dying, or maybe it's a job opportunity, or maybe it's a person, or maybe it's, we've lost something, or we're losing something. We're in the midst of losing it. And it feels very confusing because Saturn's putting this pressure of build, make it tangible, but it's not quite there yet. So this is really this testing of our faith. How much do you believe? One of my favorite quotes that I talk about often is this quote by Terence McKenna, where he talks about how nature loves courage, and that the real alchemical gold begins when you throw yourself into the abyss and you realize that it was a feather bed. And I love this for many reasons, one of them being that obviously I love shadow work, and I'm teaching my workshop Mapping the Shadow with Human Design and Astrology this weekend. So regarding that, I love this idea that when we throw ourselves into the abyss, this shadow work, Pluto's world, Scorpio's world, we realize that it's a feather bed that we're being held in lightly. A lot of times, though, it doesn't feel like that. And so I just want to name that. Sometimes we have to believe that the feather bed is there, even if it doesn't feel like it. This feels like we're moving from belief as a concept to an embodiment of faith. And faith is finding hope when there isn't tangible proof of it. Earlier this year, I left my career as a pharmacist after 9 years. And I had wanted to do it for a really long time, but, something happened and it was just like, oh, this is the time. I didn't plan anything ahead of time. It was just kind of like it came up and I was like, I think this is the time. And so I was really looking at this Terence McKenna quote and I was like, all right, Faith, I'm going to jump into the abyss. I'm going to take this leap of faith and world catch me. And it's been such a beautiful time in so many ways. But this Neptune Saturn situation is squaring my Sagittarius moon. If you have anything in the last, really, because Saturn's at hovering around 26 degrees. So I would say anything between 22 degrees to 29 degrees of the mutable signs. Yeah, Neptune's been squaring that or conjuncting that or opposing that for a while now. Whatever planet you have, whatever point you have in those degrees, that latter parts of the mutable signs, Sagittarius, Gemini, Pisces, Virgo, you might be feeling this the most, number one. And depending on where you have that, you're going to be feeling it a certain way, right? So for me, it's moon. So it's very emotional. So going through this process of leaving my job and feeling like, oh, it's going to feel this way. Oh, and then it's going to look this way. And the reality has not matched up to my brain. And not necessarily in a bad or good way, but just that there was an ideal and it did not get matched. And while Neptune was in Aries, we were kind of like going ahead. And then Neptune moved back to Pisces with Saturn, with all this water in the sky. And it's like, hold on. Did I ever grieve this? Did I ever even grieve the loss? Or have I just been kind of like in warrior mode, like spiritual warrior? Like, I got this and I'm going to go full steam ahead. Neptune is in Aries, Saturn was in Aries. And now we're being pulled back to be like, wait a minute, there's something there. There's something left. There are remnants of this grief. And it's important for you to feel this because this is 29 degrees of Neptune. This is the end of the zodiac. How are you going to really close this out in a way that feels real and substantial? Have you been feeling this? What identities or roles or jobs or ways of being in relationships do you feel like you're grieving right now? Sometimes I really feel like there's no way for me to explain in how many ways this is happening for us collectively and personally. Through human design, we have the global frequency change of 2027. Through astrology, we have the beginning of a 37-year cycle with Saturn and Neptune at the 0 point degree of Aries, literally the part of the sky that houses the first house, Aries. It's the birth of something new. It's like we are being reborn so massively that this death needs to feel very final. That's what this universe, it's not just testing you because it wants to hurt you. It's testing you and your faith because it wants to give you something bigger and it needs to know that you have the structures to hold it. So what do we do? What do we do as we're figuring out what is coming and what is leaving? There's just so much disorientation. There's so much confusion in the field. And I say in the field because I'm feeling that, right? Like Neptune squaring my moon. Yeah, let me know if you have anything mutable. And if you have anything in Earth or the other water signs, Pisces, Scorpio, at this latter degree, it might feel like this is happening, but maybe it's like having a little bit of mercy on you. Like you're a little bit, I don't think this is necessarily easy for anybody. And, when you watch this video, maybe it's not hit yet for you and your chart. And maybe in a few months, you'll listen to this video, or maybe you found this video after I put it out. And that's when you need to hear this, this, about this void after the leap, that, and this is where really alchemy lives, is in this void in between these two worlds. But it's not comfortable. I'm not going to lie to you. It is, though. It is a womb of sorts, right? As I said, Aries is like the birth, is the first house, is where we are literally birthed into the world, the ascendant. And so what comes before that is Pisces, the 12th house, which is the womb. Small practices, small routines. I did my workshop Turning Triggers into Gold on the Virgo new moon because it was about rituals. And Virgo and the sixth house and the third as well, they're about like rituals. And especially when it comes to the sixth house, it's like opposing this 12th house, all this Piscean energy is how do we bring the mystical into the mundane? Starting with small embodied rituals, simple acts that hold us together when it feels like everything's dissolving or we're being asked to surrender in such a big way. What are those small things? Maybe it's literally a moment of just putting your heart on your chest and saying, yeah, I'm here. Maybe it's, eating a warm meal when you're feeling like everything is falling apart, like where are these little mundane avenues that we can find something tangible to remind us that we're here, that everything's okay, that we have something? How do we keep the faith when it feels like it's literally being stripped out of our hands? And remember that, like, this is the test of faith. You're being pulled back so that you can be prepared for something. Neptune and Pisces on the gift end here is really about compassion. So how do we lean into that, And what I always say is like, include yourself in your compassion, right? That's how the boundaries get there, is like oftentimes when we fall into the Neptunian fog of like love and compassion, which seems like really great on the outside, but can often become this like self-sacrifice, we forget that we ourselves need to be taken care of too. And that's our job. And so that means that sometimes we need to have certain boundaries in place, right? Like it's so cool how our nervous system literally reflects the universe in the ways that like everything I'm talking about right now, like can you hold what's coming? That's what the universe is saying. Like, I want to give this big thing to you, but I don't know if you can hold it. Can you show me that you can hold this? That you can move in the dark, move through the mist, be willing to take that step and like without tangible proof that something is coming. And it's the same thing with our nervous system. So the way that we ground that is that our nervous system needs capacity. I healed my autoimmune illnesses, my pain, my chronic pain, and a huge part of that was increasing my capacity to hold everything, the pain, the beauty, all of it at once, and not trying to hold on to just one aspect of it. And that is building capacity to feel in the body. That's why I say small things, small rituals. Okay, I'm going to sit in my pain for a minute and then I'm going to come out of it. Showing our nervous systems that we got this, we can hold this, because you can say faith, you can say that God, the universe wants to give this to you. And it's saying, can you hold all of this energetically? And you can also say that your nervous system says, hey, I know you want this thing, but I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe having that. And you know what? Safety wins. Safety wins. We are wired for safety. And so if something feels extremely unsafe to our systems, it's going to be really hard. That's why you're, I want to do this thing, but I just can't do it. Well, there's a lot of things that go in there, even scientifically, but shadow work is also a really beautiful way to do this. And the way that I do it and the way that we'll do it in my workshop this weekend is that it will not be like this, like, boo, we're going to dive deep and we're going to go look at all the shadows and we're going to stay there. It's like, no, we look and then we come back up, right? That's why I love the integration with the somatics. Create microstructures of faith right now. Just small little things. Maybe at the end of your day, write one good thing that happened. One small thing that shows you that maybe everything is going to be okay. And really, more than anything, don't look away from the grief. Don't look away from the pain. Mourn certainty. Mourn it. Grieve it. Life exists on a spectrum. Emotions exist on a spectrum. And the more that we can hold pain, the more that we can hold joy. Something's beautiful is trying to come to you, and you're just building capacity to be able to hold this, And we do that by titration of pain, not just like collapsing into it where our nervous system might freak out. Oh, yeah. I just feel really called to speak about this today, and the grief, the mourning of this old, because you know that something new is coming. and holding on to that and having that faith and creating whatever little microstructures are going to help you get there. And, that then helps us be able to hold more capacity. And more capacity allows us the freedom of choice, which is what allows us to build a life that feels authentic and creative and beautiful and fulfilling and meaningful to us. So it's all a journey. So right now, maybe you're making your own feather bed. Maybe you're just in the abyss and the universe is like, hold on, you just got to keep falling. The feather bed's down there, and you just got to keep yourself comfortable as you fall. And, yeah, have hope and at the same time, diligently work to build the structures that the hope is asking you to build. All right, this was amazing. Once again, workshop Mapping the Shadows, October 25th, happening at 11 a.m. I have the information in my description. I have my one-on-one sessions as well. Join my mailing list if you want to stay in touch with me, and you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. I'll see you next time.